Hello, America. Names A through Z. We are in a semi-ancient trap that is a hyper-additional name. To discern it, we have to discern how that breaching method is a scientific value that is replaced, having been communicated by our founders too, not to leave out the breaching method. And the difference between foreign names or our own. They have collusions where they have natures of peace and natures of war used syntactically while they're pretending they could speak for the sciences properly, because the sciences have they're communicating other than our founders communicated for us to communicate. For example, using the breaching method as a scientific value, using how we have black people's whites of eyes, how simultaneously that is having the same colorized, different colorized at the same time, per nature's use of difference, per how we know. Simultaneously, while we are a species volume, a species, an individual species body of individual body, with group difference slash differences in demonstration of the same thing too, because the other species bodies also have quality aspects in nature, distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneous slash hyper simultaneous. There are 5 ways distinct that time is grouped from how 3 ways. So there is the extent of the past that we know is true always. We know right now. This is live. This is true always. We know that there's an extent to come. So this is about, for example, people dying of the species body as our own body. And relative to uses of names A through Z, leaving out the breaching method, because it's more probable too than what is being convicted. So even if it's not real, there are means to blame a hyper-archetypal predicate acts with facts delivery system method, and or the difference of that, or it being a criminal insidiousness nature delivery system method. So Judge Napolitano has access to some of the most brilliant minds in the world who are educated, because some of the most brilliant minds in the world were born people stacked on, or in like New York City, the suburbs were designed from here to Russia to Ukraine before America's founders were born, before their parents were born. And they were designed through bodies that were themselves already the possession of what already took, force, trick, hurt, and persuade, took all A names A through Z, only remembered roles, uses of the names of the sciences abridged. We would have realized this, but we had other communicated for our founders, where their communications naturally wanted each age of fact-keeping nature to appreciate reason, mind, and reality, tacticability than we have been allowed to. You guys have other communicated for James Madison and his plan and the founders behind him. Self-valued roles. You guys, he forced others with the Constitutional Convention and with the Declaration of Independence. That's how that Declaration of Independence became. So you guys are a certain type of victim slash hyper victim. And forgiveness is relative, for example, not just because we have to blame the breaching method, where sustained roles with it makes truths like, oh, this person did that, but also everyone, in other words, the breaching method has uses of itself left out, or that is sensed, and sculpts people towards that. So there's a Jeffrey Sachs in a video with one of the videos. Judge Napolitano treats world issues where we're on the edge of the humanity being taken out. We have left our Earth's special differences, our own hyperdistinctly, distinctly, non distinctly, simultaneous ourselves. There's a Ron Adams who's been all kinds of natures of federal evidences, crimes, roles with child offenders and with FBI and other agencies involved with the Joshua Julian on Facebook and on YouTube also with names tied to him like Cololo and Violet, who have roles interstates with state police forms FBI, also recorded consciously grouping criminal enterprises wrong roles with judges, family members, all kinds of drugs and medicines, crimes, tactical delusions. The reasons we have problems with borders tied to mental health locations is because they run into high lie progressions. Where they're part of the patients, their family members, a whole bunch of fire departments have family members that run into high lie progressions because everyone's repeating fake things and then locking that in databases. They're leaving out the foreign names and the overt criminal enterprises and private ones originally instilled. Our founders also demonstrated to us not to leave out how the economic systems and roles with it were forced by the breaching method and the database relativity slash relativities to us. In other words, you guys can't, a quality of fact sheepy nature is being forced offensively to a description. You guys want to have debates about emotions or things like that. You're tactically delusions wrought because the campuses. You guys prevent people short words on a mass scale, not realizing. I asked you many times for a response for the and you're making things up, collusions, pretending it's not real. Because you have fake integrity suits and ties counters. Because we don't have possession of our name /S here or there. The difference is a whole bunch of different countries have roles with kids from my grammar school that sought me out to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm how they were abused by the breaching method. And they didn't even realize they make confessions by timing where people are going to be, then pretend to know them. See, one of the things that is sickly distinctly against everyone with the black pupils, whites of eyes, and the breaching method assigned to communicate other and roles with that. Otherwise, that body is sensed, even if it is the majority of people, even if it is everyone. How many countries have people that blame things on prejudice while it's nature itself? You guys are all styles defending short words in natures that can't defend themselves and afford to be what is capable of being, let alone of protracting regarding answers. That's why and how people are dying and go to wars and things like that. Even the intermilitary has roles, and what are they doing? See, there are like states attorneys and attorney generals associated with charging criminal enterprises, counters to things as collusions originally instilled. Location /S use /S is one of the things our founders asked us to address. See, but we can't do it when we have people's expertise in names and titles used, like using words like extremism, which is that there are recorded criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, wrought uses of it, and nature's relative to how that is involved with more World Trade Center predicate acts, roles, needs, and natures, incapable of composure too. And so needing to, in other words, regardless of people believe it or not, get on paper, get them on paper, one name and sequence, get me out to fake conversations with WSP. These are all evidences. These are people intercampuses of all ages and natures. In other words, the beginning of even the religious things tied to this. They have all sides. In other words, even right in the beginning of those books, it dictates how to read them and defend them. No one even realizes that because everyone's been defending it because there's remote uses of differences, people's differences, little styles of fake. You guys have to follow mandated law and get me off the fake conversation, communications with others. Increasingly tied to people that weren't even in my class that put fake things in databases and they're educated. I'm going to show you how they raise people to speak for the law who had no means to it because you guys are replacing what our founders communicated for us to communicate. So how could you defend Marbury versus Madison properly? You can't. The breaching method knew that would be at countries A through Z. You left the breaching method out and its use of other things, others or selves blame for things it caused. Our founders told us to blame, communicated for us to blame it on the breaching method demonstrably. They communicated for us to understand how and why. No one had free speech. Everyone had to pretend to other. Entertain what no one would entertain. Had a breaching method now already been sustained, entrenched, and caused real things bad to measure and maintain itself left out with it because it caused it through others. It's causing it now. When you guys want to debate the relativity of this or if you want to debate if there are predicate acts with facts, methods, and natures of organized crime upon the people of New York City, through and as names also involved as the only ones that can counter such, not by accident. Forgiveness is because to discern the breaching method, it also comes with discernment. It means to it of everyone guilty at once, together, simultaneously. Yeah. It is righteous here, but the motions about what is simultaneous slash hyper simultaneous. So you guys also have tactical delusions, and they have wire crime acts and methods. Inside of courts, outside of courts, the difference of it, on off the state corrections offices, on off state judicial branch offices. And the difference of that with names next to the state corrections offices increasingly have roles with the World Trade Center attack with a whole bunch of different countries with those names. Has something to do with names next to Trinity College and Central Connecticut State University, involved with interdifferences, racketeering, with police departments, a whole bunch of police departments, wire crimes with the same houses, and increasing timed uses of that, even since they left, and roles with it on off Trinity College and CCSU campus itself, too, with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and his co-defendants. Increasingly collusions and leaving out what little girls actually communicated, changing it distinctly from the little boys, because there is recorded distinct conscious uses of the differences. No, in other words, even their differences, boys and girls, are being attacked, and the counters are collusions too. The counters to the things like with their sexual and what they call medical, they've been stacking all kinds of predicate acts with facts, fake conversations and ties between people, fake motivations for it into databases, and shown needs to hide that simultaneously, preemptively, actively, and to come. Also with motivations as propagated, needed by the breaching method, they never stop using location /s. You guys have other communicated than George Washington communicated for us to understand about his roles with Hartford, Connecticut, and Wethersfield, Connecticut, in our faces, roles with the natures of criminal insidiousness, of positive and negative treatment. You guys are styles that need to change and fake what people say and think. Why you have delusions? That's why I'm not trying to say there's a name. Those delusions are discernible ones. Not relative, they are finite, grouped, and together connected. There are timed uses of them. They would not be. Would you follow mandated law? And don't pretend one person had integrity. Black pupils. Yeah. So, in other words, to make us show you clear. Ron Adams is one of the people that brought up Judge Napolitano. He said he was at a wedding with Judge Napolitano. He brought up the name Officer Powell, but he also had, I believe he switched it with another officer's name before that. He has roles with retired police chiefs and people tied to the same house, and people tied to, and one's around people associated with interstates and foreign with a Joshua Julian. They also forced Saudis to roles with them, with predicate acts, wire crime acts, and methods. A whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital have wire crimes with Wethersfield police, switching names in courts, wire crime acts, falsified police reports, refusing writing so they could stack more fake things. A whole bunch of people at Hartford courts and New Britain Superior Court affected confessions to me and requests to help. It also involves the people that live near me that have been planting evidences in West Hartford and on off Trinity College and CCSU with apparently there are unmarked police forms See how they speak for difference? How could they speak for difference when the identity is a law? Little sick fake punks planting evidences on a mass scale, predicate acts with facts, and they're going to speak about crimes. They had collusions before there was a crime. In New York City, it was designed. The suburbs were designed to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. Acts like predicate acts, natures like criminal insidiousness, wrong natures, wrongdoers, wrongdoing itself. I'm not a lawyer. This Brian Adams has been planting evidences with a whole bunch of judges and prosecutors tied to the same house and a whole bunch of people. That every once in a while they put illusions because they also have collusions with all sides of criminal and civil cases, and with the lawyers, the family members of themselves, and the courts themselves. And these ones are the same ones involved in Manhattan, interstates and internationally. And since before I knew my Saudi friend, my Saudi ex, in other words, we had many fights. I didn't explain it, like a Ray Reynolds, a Joe DeMauro. They're increasingly involved with people at each campus I went to, putting fake things in databases. And increasingly, their roles with body dumping spots that keep getting brought up with it. And a whole bunch of people at Harvard Hospital with those names next to them tied. John Maiano, Maiano people with the name Maiano, Aiello, and DeMauro have been planting evidence as identity thefts and frauds with a whole bunch of names tied to them as ones next to Harvard Hospital, involved with mail crimes, putting people in fake conversations with themselves. Rick C.M. Faglione, Timothy O'Brien, and Ray Claw recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Rick C.M. Faglione is involved with identity theft, fraud, wire crimes with the police departments with them, and with judges and prosecutors. He sought me out to confess the same thing. Brian Silver and a Leahy family. They have roles attaching little kids to fake ties and fake natures of ties to their own families and to others' families. A whole bunch of people that work at Harvard Hospital. More people with the drugs and medicines crimes with the kids as judges and prosecutors speaking fake things in records too, while tactically delusions are off. And they're going to use words like extremism. In other words, we don't have a side. We don't have a side. We don't have one person that defended America properly because we have sick people, because we have sick sciences. And they're getting away with forcing this psychopath nature of commonness or aggression at A through Z. See suits and ties, counters, and exceptions as one array used to hide behind by the breaching method. /S. Everyone else is the S/S part. Nature shows us it is hypernative pure. It shows us the difference between president / chief, because it is grouped 3 ways distinctly from how it is grouped by 5 ways for how we could discern it. Again, there are those 3 parts of time that we know. Like even like with the seasons show us an extent of the future. Nature shows us the value too is only increasing equally simultaneously of the difference between if it's more valuable, how it is 3 ways bound, or if it is 5 ways bound. I'll gather round boxings. So the FBI has an extent of recorded consciousness with courts that they manipulate algorithms. They manipulate sense and sensibilities of people as the social media people. Facebook has the Joshua Julian recorded forcing roles forced more than just a principal child abuser that was brought up, untimely death roles they have. And they pretended they knew me because they had planted evidences at Trinity College too. Even if the untimely death was made up, I'm sure it wasn't. Because even if it was also the same names had timed rules with murder's relative confessions. And people, some courts, judges, and prosecutors, and all sides of cases and depositions, like the deposition of former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and his co-defendants, Thaddeus Grabowski, Dominic Lapriata, and John LeConte. Increasingly also rolls with names next to the state capitol and next to Fox Connecticut News, WFSB, and WTNH, involved with wire crimes, mail crimes, identity theft, fraud, slanders, and sticking fake predicate acts things into databases of campuses, and then influencing people to act tied to that and hide motivations. Because a whole bunch of countries had timed roles with this. There are criminal enterprises and more roles with names. There need from other areas tied to the same houses involved with the police refusing to identify themselves. It's not, in other words, the difference between that, we have the differences between the people getting arrested in New York City. No matter what it's for, but especially things that are not nonviolent. The people arresting them already had collusions at all locations /S, not just but through our own, but also not just with foreign, but a hyper foreign that also knew that any locate once it got all locations, areas, and states to use the names of the sciences abridged and pretend others simultaneously, as the law is forced since before America's founders were born. They would, they wouldn't be able to. They would have to sense for itself anyone using short words with convictions proper, anyone not leaving out the breaching method as a scientific value with descriptions of American history. In other words, this is how it maintained styles and natures of certain victims / hyper victims, victim predator / hyper predator. And then they'll smile, in other words, as the ones trying to stay calm with all formal subject treatment locations or informal. The difference of that is used too, because this breaching method uses difference tactical terror from how nature does. And it made and keeps roles with that and motivations for that. Narratives locked in, needing to pretend it forever because of how it uses all sides of criminal and civil cases and collusions with the formal laws. The difference of it, the corrections offices and the judicial offices and their roles at prisons and times needing hide the same sequence shifts with the killers and with the prisoners and with the people that work at the prisons at the same time and the news at the same time. That is not by accident. It's maintained. The easy way to discern it, black people. See, but we have to have mandated law followed. The agencies and the courts are recorded consciously to roles with this at A through Z. In other words, they prevent people short words and lie about their motivations, increasingly self-valuing the predicate acts with facts stacked into databases and use /S of all locations /S, collusion /S relative to here where it may measure and maintains, where we are syntax, where we are words, where we are sciences relative to what it caused and keeps, that it propagated, self-cultivated, blamed on other things, others or selves, because nature itself demonstrates that. Nature itself demonstrates we have black people's rights of eyes. We also have this Joshua Julian and people with Ron Adams involved with black KKK-themed military. And there's a Kate McKenzie. I never had a conversation with Kate McKenzie in her life. I never had a chance, the honor of being around her. I don't know her. In other words, they were planting evidences with exception, with people tied to her. Too. I don't know that they show the same thing. In other words, and they also mix the difference between private schools and public schools and getting the people on there because of their roles with the difference. Predicate acts with facts method. There's a nature of criminal insidiousness. Right after I saw them in the federal Congress, in the Congress, they were in Washington. They were speaking about decorum. I believe it was Michael Emmett. I never saw. I don't know. I'm not sure what he looks like, but he's one of the ones that recorded Porsche, the principal child abuser, and roles with the FBI and courts with their kids and retired police chiefs, also with medical offenders of kids like named Leahy and I still haven't got a response for their roles with Predicate Acts intercities. And that's also relative to where and how they prevent people short words. Also, they faked conversations with me at the Wethersfield Police Department as a kid. And they had the kids that did go to speak with them as strangers to make it look like I knew them before I did, and to hide how they brought up things that I didn't even respond to with foreign bodies involved. So they're increasingly leaking. Wethersfield Police and people out at Old Town Cafe sought me out to plant evidences with a Chris Walters and a Ray Cololo per them, and a whole bunch of police forms and courts with a whole bunch of different countries with their sources and friends, and the ones involved with the news planting predicate acts with facts, and then speaking about crimes. No, as natures that are forcing a quality of fact treating nature that can't defend itself and afford to be, let alone to protract short words with convictions proper and with solutions that come instantly out of nowhere. Nature itself guides. It shows us names A through Z are being used as systems tactical terror from its own, which is distinctly hyper simultaneous and simultaneous to show us the difference. This is why and how. We have the same color eyes, we have different color eyes at the same time. It is one nature of difference that no one could imitate. So it could be used to answer our questions. And this relative to where and to how we are, our value/value progression as location /s and as names with relativity will address. Still, with our founders communicated for us to demonstrate about how the database is relativity to ourselves was involved with this torture, extortion, slavery method. You guys are preventing people from speaking about that, let alone just speaking about anything we could do in life. So I'm being prevented too. A means to make a living because people like Judge Napolitano won't get them on paper. And there is recorded that courts and police forms know that they don't have integrity and they'll fake recorded things as collusions to hide foreign names and duck things off on people that had nothing to do with anything at all. In other words, they put kids in fake locations with foreign bodies, fake ties to and fake natures of ties to strangers. With the news, the interbranch, foreign and domestic medical, they're putting fake things in databases on a mass scale. You should figure out. That's why there's the problems with the borders, the counters to them. CCSU and Trinity College has rules to counters with things like that, with state police, families, interstates associated with a marked violence, and people involved with grouping criminal enterprises wrong as predicate acts with facts predators. That and natures as criminal insidious nature / hyper criminal insidious nature. Forgiveness is not to blame people in state collusions too, throwing them in jails that are still collusion too. The difference between their roles with the fake or the courts too, that's also used remotely by the breaching method. Had that manifest better than perfect increasingly since before our founders were born, since before modern countries A through Z were born. They were born with this still entrenched. Vladimir Putin was trying to explain this to Tucker, and he was influenced to pretend he didn't understand. Tucker Carlson did an interview with Vladimir Putin from Russia that could be discerned on I recorded on social media that years ahead of time means to prove that Ukraine, Russia, Israel, people from Israel. I did put that part in there too. It was in the movie too. Israel and Palestine, Ukraine and Russia. Like in the script, it's a boxing script. We'll talk about that. But in other words, their differences are used remotely. And then their nature of debate is too, because the nature of debate contains quality aspects in nature as criminal insidious / hypercriminal insidious. To appreciate this, we have to use the hyper evidential. We could use for example, which is distinct from the evidential. We could use the hyper-evidential to discern roles with those laws, as our founders really communicated for us to understand about them and how they were already precedent was criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, wrought. See, they don't have to legislate from the bench. They have to look what doesn't simultaneously accord. We have rights that are too numerous to list. They are measured and maintained, left out by ourselves, through ourselves, and measure and maintain self-valued roles with those predicate acts with facts, the methods. We'll examine this. Identity theft, fraud, slander method against people, A through Z, sickly distinctly. And knew that nature would demonstrate it that way. So I had to make it look like it's about black and white. So when people are talking about it, they think that. We have to be led by the hyper invisible, but still discernible. All parts of speech are about the invisible, but still discernible. Why and how we need 5 names for a verb rather than just one is about the hyper invisible, but still discernible. And this is about its identity to the extent we can discern equally with its complete identity of relationship to itself, inseparable from all things, even things made up, and the only increasing value of that equally, those 3 things. It is also bound that way. In many boxings, martial arts, and wrestling, they share the identity the sciences share, which so groups them. And they are about fighting, but by the rules. But the rules have been abridged since semi-ancient times. So no one spoke properly, and though they were our sense. Even if they are a majority of people, even if they are everyone, as the breaching method knows. This is also why the part that dictate at the Old Testament that dictates how to defend that book. It's at the part right. It's the part right with the name of the people. It says the names of the people, the sciences will come together. This is the only part we defend this book right here, and the part before it. This is about the quality of diffusion that is concentrated here. The same way as the rest of space/existence, except for how there are phenomena associated with this. And where how it is relative how there is a hypernative conjunction to our questions, why we question, how we question, in the timing of our questions. That is a hypernative system that we have been tactical from. And again, it employed that difference too, Native American. Because that difference was that part of the human system that can't help but be a counter to systems tactical terror from that which is hypernative. And this is what's also demonstrated by how nature itself shows us the value of discerning how sickly distinctly the colonists, Native Americans, and A through Z heard each other, while those laws had been sustained, entrenched, roles with them, forced on everyone since before our founders were born. And relative also to, in other words, don't put, you get into your parliamentary law and you'll get the right outcomes with things. The way Bach sings. Bach sings, it makes us shush to hear the song Bach sings. It is the rest through all of music. And it is only increasing, even if music stops. Thank you. Let me see. Also, Anthony Yagman has recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed roles with people from forensics locations and Weathersfield Police Department involved with wire crimes and then falsified police reports, and roles with child offenders that live near me that are connected to names next to all kinds of schools, intercities. And they have roles with sticking fake things in medical databases, putting kids and their family members, everyone around them, and adults to fake and change communications with everyone around them too, is also one of the things recorded. So Ron Adams has been planting evidences and lying and with people who the agencies and FBI and Facebook, the differences of their roles doing that too is used. Facebook has roles with the word extremism. Also, Central Connecticut State University sought me out to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm. They have roles with planting evidences with investigations. Investigators use remotely criminally foreign influence, male ones and female ones. I don't know all the names of some of them know my name. Many of them tied to ones with the name Cololo and Demora and Mayano and Aiello have roles with medical offenders of kids, foreign and domestic. And they have collusions against their own, including Russians, Koreans, and they have rules on off the campuses and with fire departments in ways we're going to examine because they confessed and demonstrated this part of it. So police lie about their sensibilities. Oh, well, it's our job to lie. No, get them on paper. They're leaving out exceptions. I'm going to show them how to read statutes and precedents, black people. It is time. Prepare each mind. Vaccine.